We need to lower the cost of energy production to such an extent that we can use massive sums of energy and have it be at a near zero cost. At some point in space exploration, Bitcoin's only going to be capable of being mined out to 10-minute flight speed outside of Earth's sphere, which that doesn't actually intersect with Mars at all. So I think ultimately in centuries, once we've colonized Mars, that Earth has been saved from all the endemic crises that we've been in. There's no longer state governments that are declaring their imperial notions over the rest of the solar system, that there will be another conflict that arises with Mars essentially creating their own coin that's going to have a much wider hash horizon.
Today, we have a unique episode where Eric Kaysen brings us on a journey from the present to a future intergalactic vision that is built off the back of this revolutionary technology. Imagine a future where Bitcoin isn't just a global currency, but a crucial player in space exploration and intergalactic trade. What if the currency we use on Earth today could lay the foundation for a new era of human expansion into the cosmos? This might sound like science fiction, and you're not wrong, it is. But the groundwork for this is already being laid here on Earth. Bitcoin is beginning to mend real-world issues that have plagued our planet for millennia. As we explore these possibilities, we'll dive into how Bitcoin could evolve from a solution to our current problems into the backbone of a thriving, multi-planetary, intergalactic Type 2 civilization. The point of this video is not to speculate on what will happen in the future or even try to predict exactly how it will happen. The point here is that this technology has the capacity to change things that we cannot even fathom in our current world or at our current timeline in technological progress. You are so infinitely early to the beginning of this transformative way to preserve value over time that no one can fully understand how it will change our world in the future. But before we do that, I want to introduce our sponsors, Stampseed, the Orange Pill app, and Swan. Our partners are businesses and people that we respect and our products that we at Bit Intelligence personally use. You're watching 21 Voices.
My book, it's called Crypto Sovereignty, and it's really about the intersections of sort of Bitcoin philosophy, sociology, and how really Bitcoin coming into the world is going to create a substantial, not only political, but much more of a philosophical change, because we're really returning to truth and understanding what it means to have truth in accounting versus using fiat decrees in order to create that money. The form of life that we've all been forced into is a kind of regimented system of generalized time slavery where most people have to work at a 9-to-5 job in some cubicle in some city doing something that they ultimately don't want to do. And when you really look at the full cost of what the fiat system has been, it has been about eliminating a total form of life where people are self-sovereign and independent. And while it's a form of life that involves more responsibility and risk in some ways, it also opens up a path of robust freedom in the most incredible ways. And so like my great hope and dream is that I don't think Bitcoin is for the West and the global North. Like I think Bitcoin is for the global South and the 4 billion poorest people that live on a few dollars a day. What does it mean if we actually open up the entirety of the African continent to finally actually be the purveyors of their own wealth instead of part of the cycle of the last 200 years of imperialism that have robbed them not only of the very real resources of the richest continent in the world that is Africa, but also the very real human agency of what it means to be impoverished and stuck in that wealth trap. And through us actually having a more fair and equitable monetary system that allows for the collective global wealth of everybody to be shared and not vampirically drained by endless wars and government spending, there becomes a gigantic bloom of economic opportunity that the world has never seen. And through the billions of people in the global South that are the poorest and incapable of being able to do anything else with their lives, there becomes this massive opportunity for people globally to be able to do development in a way that hasn't been seen or understood before. So who knows what Einsteins or Mozarts there are who never had the opportunity to practice music or study physics because of what they were put into. And so for me, the great hope of there becoming a wide bloom of Bitcoin becoming a global currency for all people everywhere is that now there becomes economic opportunity for people to really choose how they put their economic livelihood into work and what they actually commit their lives to. what does it mean that now we can actually give the dignity of allowing for these people that have suffered under that kind of imperialism forever the first real opportunity to be independent from that? What does that mean to allow for them the freedom of choice and the capacity to actually save and do something for themselves and not need to suffer under this darkness and this nihilism that nothing can actually be solved? And to me, like, that's the great piece of Bitcoin that is the hope of it, is that, like, we can actually change this. As dark and as endemic and as horrible as things might be going, and as dark as it looks like it goes as we go down that rabbit hole, there's a real potential for something to be different and for us to feel empowered that we don't have to play this game of trying to elect the right politician who's just the least bad guy for the job, but that we can actually make a choice to create something totally new and different, so that maybe, just maybe, generations down the line, our great-great-grandchildren who we don't know will actually look back on us with great gratitude and going, wow, our forebears actually made a decision to change this system that was exploiting everybody for so long, and it seems so unsolvable, to creating this beautiful new world that not only allowed for us the access to go out and to do space exploration, but to legitimately be able to address the problems of what the pollution and environmental crisis actually are, and apply new and different and novel solutions that were never thought of before because there weren't the availability of people to actually think about and consider in a meaningful way because they were stuck in fiat slavery. To me, this is really about the dignity of knowing that we can change that, and the sort of, if you want to call it, spiritual compelling that is caused by knowing that we could actually make a meaningful change in our world that could be seen decades, if not centuries, into the future. We need to lower the cost of energy production to such an extent that we can use massive sums of energy and have it be at a near zero cost. In the current fiat system, there's no conceivable way to build out those systems, but we are actively seeing Bitcoin mining changing energy markets in a positive way. And I think more and more we're going to watch that transformation all the way up until we do get into space exploration and Bitcoin becomes a global currency. And Drew Banzel have done some incredible work around this, and he presented the idea of the hash horizon, is that at some point in space exploration, Bitcoin's only going to be capable of being mined out to 10-minute flight speed outside of Earth's sphere, which that doesn't actually intersect with Mars at all. So I think ultimately in centuries, once we've colonized Mars, that Earth has been saved from all the endemic crises that we've been in. There's no longer state governments that are declaring their imperial notions over the rest of the solar system, that there will be another conflict that arises with Mars essentially creating their own coin that's going to have a much wider hash horizon, maybe of, say, 30 minutes or 2 hours or some other extent that they choose that might work better for a Martian population. And that'll cause for a bloom in Mars and them being able to explore all of the inner solar system. And then maybe again we'll have it with when people have colonized Titan and they're outside of the hash horizon of Mars coin. And it's going to be kind of this continual chain that goes on until eons into the future when, we can achieve all sorts of insane technological innovations with energy, that there'll be a number of different intergalactic interchangeable blockchains that hopefully once we encounter extraterrestrial life, they'll be deeply impressed that we actually have this intergalactic system of exchange that is meaningful and viable through the actual physics of the universe. So even though we might not understand each other in any meaningful way, the mathematics of what we're using speaks to them in a way that we couldn't necessarily do on our own.
Please bear with us for a quick message from our sponsors. These videos take a lot of time to make, and we've partnered with brands we trust like Stampseed and the Orange Pill app in order to get the funding we need to bring you these videos every week. Don't store your Bitcoin in cold storage without stamping your seed phrase on an indestructible titanium plate. Stampseed is fireproof, rust-proof, impact-proof, and easy to hide. It has no loose parts and will give you ultimate peace of mind that your Bitcoin is safe and sound for the long term. Click the link in the description below for 15% off your stamping kit. When I finally got Bitcoin, it hit me like a lightning bolt. It was the currency of the future, the only money that truly mattered. But there was a problem. I didn't know anyone else that thought like me. That is until I discovered the Orange Pill app. Suddenly, I was connected with a network of like-minded Bitcoin enthusiasts right in my own city. The Orange Pill app is more than just a social network. It's a community of passionate individuals determined to change the world, one Satoshi at a time. This series is brought to you by Swan and created by Bit Intelligence. Remember to like this video and subscribe to both our channels for more videos like this every week. Thanks for watching.
It's a really wild future to think about that I think is really fun. And, I'm confident that those will be problems that our forebears will need to be able to address. And hopefully some of the work and thought that we've gone into trying to create this new, more egalitarian, fair currency for all beings everywhere, human or otherwise, that it'll actually make for a very novel and interesting way that humanity will somehow find themselves into the stars, and it happens to be because of magic internet money. I'll just say on that note, look, whether you agree with what I say or not, do your own work. And that's really kind of what we present in Bitcoin is we're not asking you to trust us on this. We're asking you to verify us on it. So please, whether it's on any of kind of the crazier thoughts I've had or just on the inner workings of Bitcoin, really ask yourself and tell yourself you are smart enough to understand all of this. You just have to actually put in the work to try to understand it. And once you put in that work, you'll be surprised at how quickly you actually gain a new and deeper understanding about it, whether you agree with it or not. And that in itself is a power that can allow for you to actually actively make the changes that you want to see in your life. Just on the idea of sort of Bitcoin outliving the human species and being, this truly long-term currency, it becomes really interesting to think about AIs and other sort of digital beings, if you will, being able to start utilizing that as their preferred money, not only because it makes sense because it actually is digital and they can verify it on their own, that would become their preferred currency, but imagine for different AI bots to be able to create a sort of business that can last for centuries and can time lock money longer than the human lifespan itself to be able to perform different tasks. And so it's really interesting when we start looking at the possibilities of a post-human future and the possibility of there being actually sentient AIs that can do different things. It makes sense that they're going to want to be paid in a digital currency that they can actually verify and understand has value, which right now it seems like Bitcoin is really the only solution for something like that. So I think it's really important, not necessarily because these problems need to be addressed now, but just getting to look at the much greater picture in terms of centuries or millennia of what Bitcoin could actually do in terms of its sort of development beyond humans alone. Yeah, I mean, states just aren't going to make sense in that kind of a future, I would say even more than Bitcoin not being ready for it, I think people aren't ready for it. I think there's a very real need, which, gratefully you and many others are doing, about education of what really Bitcoin is in a much deeper methodology. And to me, that's the development of a real class consciousness that Bitcoiners need. They need to be able to understand Bitcoin and all of these connections that we've been talking about, which, I readily want to admit, it is a ton of information and work to do. But everybody can do that, and through that process of education, you actually acquire the knowledge of what real self-sovereignty means. Because it's not just about holding Bitcoin, it's about making sure that your government doesn't have the ability to use their political weight against you in all of the ways that we've experienced over the last century. And so not only are we suffering under financial imperialism, but we're suffering under corporate imperialism, we're suffering under medical imperialism, we're suffering under educational imperialism. And all of these things we need to address across the board of how can we become more self-sovereign in all of these different fields in a meaningful way, which I think Bitcoin becomes a very important and powerful linchpin.
As Eric has shown us in this video, Bitcoin's potential extends far beyond just being a digital currency. It's a tool that can reshape our energy markets, empowering the global south, and even fueling humanity's journey to the stars. And as we look to the future, how might we need to adapt our understanding of money, power, freedom, and corruption to move past the system that we're currently stuck in and emerge in a world with interplanetary goals? Stay tuned and remember to subscribe for the latest recaps, insights, and films about all things Bitcoin. This is 21 Voices. If you want to watch another episode, try this one here.